You think what an economy is, ultimately an economy is the number of people, the number of hours work, and the quality and quantity of capital that they work with. That's it. It's three variables. The United Kingdom was essentially really good at basically extracting from a periphery called empire, had some really interesting technological innovations in everything from weaving to steam to electricity. Eventually, that technological advantage moves over to the United States. The United States is much bigger at scale. Those technologies are much more easily embedded at scale in the United States. The United States becomes becomes the dominant economic power. The United States also finances World War One and basically makes Britain a creditor to them at the end, a debtor to them at the end of it. They finance and arm World War Two and end up the winners after this. By the end of 1946, I think it is, the United States was 50% of global GDP and 60% of world capital. So it's a very fast transition. If you think about it in terms of the history of the British Empire over 120, 130 years, everything's going fine until World War One, and then within a 30-year period, it's all over, right? But it's all over because we had stupid big wars that we couldn't avoid, or we could never win, right? And also because we just weren't big enough. We didn't have enough people. We didn't have enough capital to actually make it work. There's a wonderful bit in Adam Tooze's book, The Wages of Destruction, about the Germans discovering the work the Brits were doing on the concept of gross domestic product and gross national product. And I'm sure it's in the book, or maybe it's in one of his papers. And it's a bit that I think he found in the archive somewhere in Berlin or somewhere. And it's some underling in the finance ministry in Germany basically copying Clark's tables and like doing GDP calculations and just going, you got United States, Russia, Germany, you know, the whole thing right down. And he's just the numbers he's coming up, and he's written at the bottom, Alice is for buy. You're done. just look at the numbers, mate. You're done. It's over.
So, what we can say though, with your three factors, I think it was people, capital,
number of hours work, capital, people. That's
it. So we can say the next reserve currency that will be there at some point, maybe, will probably at least have a large amount of people. So maybe we can tone it down to, if it were to happen now in the next years, India, China, or maybe not China, but India, for example. So a country with a lot of people. That's a necessity.
That's one of them, but then it's also the quality of capital, right? At the end of the day, what really matters is capital, technological innovation, right? So you can have loads. India has lots of people and they work lots of hours. They're very poor. Why are they very poor? Because they're still primarily an agricultural economy. They have terrible infrastructure. They have incredibly low public and private investment. They're dependent on their energy imports. All the things that could go structurally wrong are structurally wrong. Yes, you've got Bangalore and a bit of an IT hub, but actually India gets as much of a current account relief to balance its books from remittances from the Gulf as it does from the IT sector, right? This is not a hegemonic power. A hegemonic power is somebody that's going to control AI. A hegemonic power is one that's going to have the most data centers. Then you don't have to worry about how many people you've got or how many hours you're working. What matters is the quality of capital. So it's those types of things that go into it as well, right? And a very simple thing as well, as apart from all that, is trust, right? At the end of the day, why is it that bond contracts are written in not just in English, but in English law? Because the courts are trusted internationally. This is why the sort of like the near-term threat to dollar stability is, in the eyes of investors, is a Trump victory where Trump goes on a witch hunt. Because if he politicizes the courts, why should I have faith in your courts to adjudicate my debts, to adjudicate bankruptcy, to adjudicate all the stuff that we need to do in finance, right? Let's remember that the majority of written law in capitalist society concerns property, not persons. Right? So if you start to screw around with that, you got a problem. Now, this is your problem with China. If you're an international investor, do you really trust Xi Jinping and the Communist Party to have your fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders as their bottom line? And things like that really matter if you want to talk about being the top player.